All right, so getting ready for a consumer rights advisor interview, huh? That's awesome. It's a field where you can really make a difference, advocating for fairness in the marketplace. And we've got a whole bunch of role catcher resources here to help you totally nail this interview. Career guides, interview tips, even some cool insights into how they use AI.
Yeah, it's definitely a role that's in high demand right now. More and more organizations are, realizing how important it is to treat their consumers right, and that's where you come in.
For sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those tricky interview questions. The ones that can really trip you up if you're not prepared.
Yeah, and just so you know, about 75% of our deep dive today is going to be focused on how to knock these questions out of the park.
Sounds good.
Okay, so first up, they might ask you, what inspired you to pursue this career?
Ah, yeah. This is where they really want to see your passion.
Yeah.
It can't just be some generic answer like, oh, I like helping people.
Exactly. They want to know what sparked your interest in consumer rights. Was there like a personal experience, a news story, or something that made you think, wait a minute, this isn't right. Something needs to change.
Hmm. I remember reading about this case where a company was totally misleading customers with their advertising, and it really made me realize how vulnerable consumers can be. And I knew I wanted to be someone who could help.
That's a perfect example. Sharing a specific story like that can really make your answer stand out. And be ready for follow-up questions too. They might ask you to like elaborate on the story or connect it to the skills you've developed.
Makes sense. Okay, what about this one? How do you stay up to date on the ever-changing laws?
This is where they're looking for someone who's proactive, someone who takes the initiative to stay informed. Saying something like, I'll just Google it, isn't going to cut it. Mention industry publications, websites, professional organizations, things that show you're dedicated to keeping your knowledge current.
What are some resources you find particularly valuable?
Well, the National Consumer Law Center is an amazing resource. They have a ton of information on consumer protection laws and regulations, and the Federal Trade Commission website is also a must-read, especially for staying updated on consumer fraud trends and enforcement actions.
Great tips. And don't forget about networking. Attending industry conferences and connecting with other professionals can also give you valuable insights into new trends and best practices.
Absolutely. All right, let's tackle the question that everyone dreads. Describe a time you had to handle a difficult client.
Yeah, everyone has that one client story, right? The one that really tested your patience and problem-solving skills.
For sure. But this isn't about complaining. It's about showing how you can handle pressure and still find a resolution.
Right.
Pick a situation where you successfully navigated a challenging interaction and focus on the steps you took to de-escalate the situation, maintain professionalism, and ultimately find a solution. They want to see your empathy, your communication skills, and your ability to stay calm under pressure.
It's not just about reciting the story. It's about highlighting the skills and qualities that make you a great consumer rights advisor.
Exactly. Okay, now how about this one? How do you make sure clients really understand their rights?
This is all about clear communication. Nobody wants to be bombarded with legal jargon they don't understand.
Exactly. Talk about using plain language, avoiding technical terms, and maybe even providing additional resources like brochures or websites to make sure the information is clear and accessible. You could even mention using visuals or diagrams to simplify complex concepts.
Yeah, it's about meeting the client where they are and empowering them with knowledge.
Right. Another question you might get is, what's your experience with consumer protection agencies been like?
This is your chance to showcase any relevant experience, right? Have you volunteered, interned, or even just interacted with these agencies in any way?
Even something as simple as calling a consumer protection hotline for advice on a personal matter can demonstrate your initiative and interest. Then mention any specific agencies you've worked with or are familiar with.
Okay, now let's talk about a question that comes up a lot. How do you juggle a busy workload?
Here, they want to see how you prioritize tasks, manage your time, and stay organized. Do you have any systems or strategies that help you stay on top of things?
I'm a big fan of to-do lists and time blocking. It helps me break down my workload into manageable chunks and allocate time for each task.
Those are great strategies. You could also mention using digital calendars or project management tools to stay organized. The key is to showcase your ability to handle multiple responsibilities effectively and efficiently.
Okay, another question that could come up is, tell me about a time you negotiated a settlement for a client. This one really gets to the heart of the role.
Absolutely. Focus on a successful outcome, the strategy involved, and how you advocated for your client's needs. Did you manage to get a refund, a replacement product, or some other compensation?
And don't forget to mention the empathy you showed throughout the process. It's not just about winning. It's about understanding the client's perspective and working towards a fair resolution.
Right. Okay, so here's a question that can be a little tricky. How do you handle confidential information? This is a big deal, and they want to make sure you really get it.
Yeah, you're dealing with people's personal stuff, their financial details, their complaints. It's super important to handle all that with care.
Right. You should mention things like secure file keeping practices, data encryption, and, making sure you're following all the privacy regulations. Show them that you understand what could happen if you don't handle sensitive information properly and that you're committed to keeping things confidential.
Absolutely. Okay, so another one that dives into ethics is, what about conflicts of interest? Like, how would you handle a situation where, your own personal interests could influence your professional judgment?
That's a tough one. This is where being transparent and having integrity are super important. Talk about disclosing things up front, maybe even asking your supervisor for guidance and, being willing to step away from a case if you need to. They want to see that you understand how important it is to stay impartial and do what's best for your clients.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now for the question everyone hopes they won't get. Tell me about a time you had a difficult coworker or boss. How did you deal with it?
Oof, yeah, it's a classic. This isn't about bad-mouthing anyone, though. This is about showing them your communication and teamwork skills, even when things get tough.
Right. Like, did you find a way to compromise or maybe try mediation or talk to a supervisor?
Yeah.
The point is to show that you can handle those interpersonal challenges professionally and productively.
Exactly. All right, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about some career insights from the RoleCatcher Guide. It's important to think beyond just the entry-level role. This career has tons of room for growth.
Yeah, you're not just stuck handling complaints. You could specialize in a certain area like debt collection or data privacy.
You could even move into a management position and lead a team of advisors or even get involved in shaping consumer protection policies.
It's exciting. The field is always changing, especially with all these new technologies popping up all the time.
Oh, for sure. And that brings up a good question. How do you think the role of a consumer rights advisor will evolve in the future?
That's a really interesting question. It goes way beyond just this one interview. It's about the future of consumer protection in general.
Absolutely. As technology keeps advancing, it creates new challenges and opportunities for people who are advocating for consumer rights.
Speaking of technology, let's talk about how RoleCatcher's AI can really give you an edge when you're preparing for your interview.
They have some really cool tools that can actually analyze job descriptions and tell you what skills you might be missing. So then you can tailor your resume and your answers to really target those gaps.
It's like having your own personal career coach, right?
Yeah.
Helping you play up your strengths and identify any areas where you might need to brush up.
Yeah, and here's the best part. They also have this AI-powered interview simulator that can watch your practice videos and give you feedback on your body language, your tone of voice, your overall presentation.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having a virtual mirror, but one that can actually analyze your interview style and help you project confidence and authenticity.
Right, and it's not just for this one interview. This is a skill that can help you throughout your whole career.
I love that. And what about that massive database of employers we talked about?
Oh, yeah. You can use that to really focus your job search, find companies that align with your values and that specialize in the areas you're passionate about.
So it takes out all the guesswork and helps you connect with companies that are actually looking for someone with your skills and interests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see preparing for this interview isn't just about memorizing a bunch of answers. It's about really understanding the role, showing them your passion and your skills and thinking about how the field is going to change in the future.
It's about the big picture. So it sounds like we're not just talking about prepping for some interview, right? This is about getting ready for a whole career where you can really make a difference.
You got it. You're stepping into a role where you can, advocate for fairness, empower consumers, and even help shape a more ethical marketplace. It's a field with huge potential for growth and impact.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to remember?
I'd say be authentic. Let that passion shine through. They're not just looking for someone who can answer questions. They're looking for someone who really cares about this stuff, who's excited to make a difference.
I love that. Let your enthusiasm and your commitment really be your guiding force. Oh, and don't be afraid to ask questions, too. It shows you're engaged and curious.
Yeah, for sure. An interview is a two-way street. It's a chance for you to learn more about them and the role and to see if it's the right fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And hey, even if this specific interview doesn't turn into a job, the preparation you've done will be valuable for your future.
Exactly. The skills you've learned, the knowledge you've gained, it'll all serve you well no matter what.
That's so true. All right, so go out there, ace that interview, and become a champion for consumer rights. We're all rooting for you.
And remember, the learning never stops. Stay curious, stay engaged, and keep that passion burning.